Hi, welcome to a new Earth Book Club, Week 10, Chapter 10. I am Meredith.
Hi, I'm Alyssa.
Hello, I'm Jonathan.
Awesome. Okay. Alyssa, could you switch to the next slide? Thank you. Okay, so this was a portion. It says, if you look within rather than only without, however, you discover that you have an inner and outer purpose. And since you are a microcosmic reflection of the macrocosm, it follows that the universe too has an inner and outer purpose inseparable from yours. The outer purpose of the universe is to create form and experience the interaction of forms, the play, the dream, the drama, or whatever you choose to call it. Its inner purpose is to awaken to its formless essence. Then comes the reconciliation of outer and inner purpose, to bring that essence, consciousness, into the world of form and thereby transform the world. The ultimate purpose of that transformation goes far beyond anything the human mind can imagine or comprehend. And yet, on this planet at this time, that transformation is the task allotted to us. That is the reconciliation of outer and inner purpose, the reconciliation of the word and God, of the world and God. And now Jonathan's going to lead us in a guided meditation. It says moment of silence, so we'll just be silent to ourselves while Jonathan talks. Thank you.
We'll incorporate some silence into the meditation. It will be more of a Dharma talk as well. Meditation is the activity of focusing on the breath. It is one of the few things in life that isn't, mental, as Tolle puts his opinions of humanity. It is the use of the center of the brain as well as the rear cerebellum. Neuroscientific. When you focus on your breath, your thoughts do not come into reality the same way they do when you are living as a thought being rather than a breathing being. So we're going to take a moment now to focus on our breath, maybe just 30 seconds, and we will see what happens when we begin motion again with this meeting. You can feel those pathways strengthening as you focus on your breath, returning to the breath, always with the goal of not having a goal, but just breathing and being aware of the breath. What's everybody thinking about? It's so peaceful. All I hear is the house is very smooth. It's relaxing.
It was very peaceful for me too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That is an ever deepening feeling with this practice.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Yeah,
You're
thank you,
welcome.
Jonathan.
First time I ever led a meditation. I feel good about that.
That was great. You have a very calming voice for it too. Like
Hooray! Insight timer, I think.
well, I mean, you know, like picture like someone like Gilbert Godfrey trying to do a meditation here, you know.
You can become a yoga teacher, guided meditation of your own class.
Yeah.
Or
I
are you
probably
a yoga teacher? Are you already a yoga teacher?
no.
No?
No. I just do lots and lots of yoga. I live the yoga. I think about that yoke all the time. Mhm. Sorry.
Okay, so no, that okay, so our reflection from last week's exercise, we did asking yourself, is there joy, ease, and lightness in what I'm doing? If there isn't, then time is covering up the present moment and life is perceived as a burden or struggle. And giving your fullest attention to whatever the moment presents, this implies that you also completely accept what is, because you cannot give your full attention to something and resist it at the same time. I have some things to share, but would anyone like to share first?
I can share first. I think I really like this exercise for this week, and it's really, I think, especially for the second one. Uh, um, Whenever I do stuff, it like sometimes if I just don't be like for example when I'm reading, I was think of something else that will happen, or think of a list of things that I need to do. This second exercise is really good because it just can bring me back to the present moment, and it can also make me be focused more, even on reading or working or things that I was doing at that time, rather than think of um, other things that will happen or things that happen in the past. This is a great exercise to me. It just like, yeah, because like we humans sometimes we just I know we're not supposed to do that, but sometimes we do. Just yeah. So I love this one. The first one is there any joy, ease, and lightness. I feel that like in terms of work that I'm working right now, I don't feel a struggle or burden, and I love the thing that I'm doing. So I think I'm doing it okay, or like yeah. Like I'm happy with
Awesome.
whatever it is. Yes.
That's awesome. Jonathan, did you have anything you wanted to share?
Oh yeah, yeah. Is there joy, ease, and lightness in what I am doing? Yes. Good times. Good times.
Does anyone notice with that question being posed, like maybe activities that you had made excuses for as to why you were doing them, but then like after evaluating it, did it change your choices? Because I think for me that was one thing, is like using that as my like sifter for like what I want to do. So like if it doesn't pass that bar, or
Mm.
like whatever, that standard, then it's like, why am I viewing this situation that way, or why am I doing that?
Yeah, if you're talking about activities, right? If the activities that you have an option to do and there is no joy, then you can choose not to do it again. But if it's like you have an option not to do it again, but if for something that you don't have an option not to do, I mean, you have like I don't know how to say it, you know, like um I'm sure that all can be any activities you have an option to do or not to do.
Or
But
definitely how we perceive the situation. Like we can do
yeah,
the activity or whatever and blame our emotions on the activity, but in reality
yeah,
it's about how we're perceiving the activity.
right. I mean, yeah, if you don't find joy or you find that a struggle, why do that, you know?
Yeah.
That's so good. True. Yeah. Why not enjoy life? Have what you want with life and have goals to yourself and be accountable to yourself to get what you want out of life.
Right.
I guess we can go to the next slide. Unless, Jonathan, did you have anything else to add to that? I kind of.
No. I
Okay.
meditated for
Okay.
quite a while. Near vegetative delta waves just
Great.
going out of me right now.
Great. Okay, so this says discuss things that happen externally, the outward movement of growth of growth that aid in ego death. And then why does outward movement of growth cause ego death? So with this question, I guess I wanted to discuss more about like those things that happen in our life that shake us up, to cause us to surrender as humans, and also to kind of like strip away the ego and the facade of who we really think we are when that's not who we really are. Why does giving just changing the perspective of those horrible things that can sometimes happen to us, like just changing that outlook of like this needs to happen because it causes this separation from the ego, does that give perspective? Does that make the hard things easier?
Well, I'd say that ego is a solid form in the mind. It is a total identification with thought. So, when you have an outward movement of growth, your ego may certainly lighten up. It may become less dense. Reincarnates in a way. So you're less important, but more part of the whole of humanity than you were when you were separated by that false sense of self. That may have been rooted in prehistoric shenanigans.
Would it be fair to say that like our ego is the filter that we view life with then?
Sure. It's part of that. It's more the way it we view ourselves in relation to others. That's what it really is. At very not dense, very handleable, healthy, happy level. It's the way we see ourselves in relation to others. So basically, self-esteem.
Hmm.
Uh, it does die in a way, but it also comes back as something better. It is a improvement.
So you're saying the ego is correlated to self-esteem?
I'd say it does definitely have some connections. When you think of that is a very light and happy way that ego manifests itself. And since we have one until it dissolves at death, it's good to keep it nice and light and not forget that it is part of being human to have one.
Are we supposed to have a positive, like strong self-esteem?
Yeah, of course.
Yes. But then if ego is related to the self-esteem, then an ego is something that we don't want to strengthen it.
Yeah.
Then I find that it's a contradict with each
Well,
other.
the density of the ego, a denser ego dies and a healthier, happier ego replaces it. It's almost like a power vacuum, maybe like the vacuum of space, or maybe a vacuum such as, it draws things in. A new ego, so that old ego, you can be a different person. And every 7 years or so, the body is physically a new batch of matter. So it really does lighten up and get replaced. So that outward movement, it's almost a shedding of the old and the rebirth of the new.
What is your thought, Meredith? Don't just smile. I want to know
I
what your thought.
I was just thinking earlier that I heard, I can't remember where it was from because I listened to a lot of YouTube people, but they were talking about how, I think it was Jake Ducey. He was saying that, money is just matter, and that everything, if you look around, everything is just matter. But it's like so small that we obviously can't see it, but everything is constantly changing. And I think that when Jonathan mentioned that every 7 years, like our body, like seriously gets, like we're constantly getting new cells, and that just brought it back down to like looking around at everything, like everything is energy moving. It's just we see it as a solid because we live in this dimension.
Well, if a being of light didn't occupy the space where the matter was, it would just sort of be a field of energy. They talk about energy fields a bit in the book. Energy fields being a bad thing, but they can be a good thing too. Ego is a natural part of being human.
It's quite interesting to reflect that life created our brains exactly the way that they needed to work to be able to eventually come to this point where we could like become aware, but like life was not always aware, and then it just kept working itself out. Now here we are. We're still not there yet, but people are waking up.
We can do some pretty amazing things, like recognize the life in us as the life that is within the things around us. Those imaginary ideas to some, but yet maybe it is the way to illuminate your surroundings and feel at one with the world. Namaste to the wall. such.
Do you do that? Namaste to the wall?
Yeah, namaste wall. Me, made of the same thing, me, and you, and up out of the ground. One day we'll return to the ground in a never-ending cycle of expansion and contraction to the matter, whatever the matter is that consciousness is being worked from into, if it is indeed a very not dense matter at hand. I'm not trying to be Dr. Seuss. Next slide, though.
Yeah, we could go to the next slide. Struggle or stress is a sign that the ego has returned, as are negative reactions when we encounter obstacles. We are also learning that action, although necessary, is only a secondary factor in manifesting our external reality. The primary factor in creation is consciousness. So before we discuss consciousness, I thought it was interesting to pair these together because it does illustrate the law of attraction and kind of showing like when you're in struggle or stress, be aware because our thoughts create. So like, yes, action happens in life, but when we're manifesting our world, our thoughts are setting the foundation and everything forward. So consciousness, as discussed in the book, is the intelligence, the organizing principle behind the arising of form. Consciousness has been preparing forms for millions of years so that it can express itself through them in the manifested. I'm going to read the whole thing here, but do others have thoughts in relation to consciousness and manifesting?
Discuss consciousness? Oh, yeah. Life has
just consciousness and so on.
It's very interesting, consciousness, how it mirrors in the world around us. If you think about the latest physical theories, of nature and reality in the universe, it's an expansion, so it has a certain amount of flow to it. So a stopping is not actually what the universe has in mind for a human being. It's a slow, steady progression. And so consciousness, just like the universe, is predetermined and it's a natural process. One might call it organic, how it just feeds upon natural, necessary things for humans and turns them into new things that are just as necessary and quite a bit improved throughout the entire process.
Alyssa,
astrophysics, looking at pictures of space, the order that comes about in space, it's just like the individuals on the planet Earth here. Some things are very coherent. Some things are very conscious. Some things are very messy, and so consciousness, what's the deal with it? Where did we get this thing, consciousness?
Well, even like unconscious manifestation has its place. Like that's part of life too, but there's like
What do you
mastery in manifesting when you're conscious.
what do you mean unconscious manifest?
Okay, so like on page
Getting
292,
multidisciplinary here with our knowledge.
it talks about when consciousness incarnates into form, it
Mm-hmm.
loses itself
Mm-hmm.
as like that's part of the game, right? Is
Okay.
to lose its conscious, it loses itself by taking on form. And then
Right.
the awake, there's
The
stages that like wake you up. And then it says only at the moment of dissolution of an individual form, that is to say death, and then begins the next incarnation, the next identification with form, the next individual dream that is part of the collective dream. So I guess that doesn't specifically talk about manifesting. I'm kind of talking about two different things here, but like consciousness, it's explaining how like why it has to lose itself to experience the human experience.
huh.
I went on a complete tangent there. I apologize. Erase all that. Never mind.
We're doing fine. We're getting
Yeah.
through
We
it is
yeah,
some very
yeah.
dense material. You can run right through it and
It
just like
is.
Well, but it makes sense whatever you just said, that like it's going through that unconsciousness. Why is it it's going? Yeah, because it take the form, and that's why it's going through that unconsciousness. But why is it doing that again?
It almost has to dumb itself down to like be able to
Yeah, to
experience
be awake
itself.
again. Okay, to be awakened. After that, then it will. Well, it's just that at the end it says. I mean, it means. I mean, which I think I understand that it means that consciousness can no longer. You cannot lose consciousness because it is in essence who you are, and you can only lose something that you have, but you cannot lose something that you are. So it's
Bingo.
like no matter, it's like even when it's like unconscious, take the form, and it become unconscious. It manifests itself in unconscious, and then I'm sorry, I don't know where I'm going. It's just like I'm just trying
No,
to
you're totally
understand it.
there. I was there with you. Keep going.
Okay. No, you keep going.
No, you were right there. You were saying that when unconsciousness takes form,
Then it loses itself, but then it reawake to get the consciousness again. But it's not. But it says you cannot lose. I mean, you cannot lose the consciousness because in essence, is that who you are. Then it's.
well, are you losing it or are you forgetting? Like
Yeah.
there's a difference, right?
Yeah.
Like lose means you don't have it anymore, but you can forget that you have something,
Oh
which
yeah.
is essentially what we're all doing, right? Is we forget
Right.
who we really are until
Yeah.
we awaken to that.
Okay.
What were
Yes.
you going to say, Jonathan?
Yeah, I was disagreeing. Totally, you can lose touch with a part of yourself, rediscover it, visit different aspects of your life, such as different hobbies. It's all okay. The stopping of thought is not what it's about. It's about the lightening up of the heavy stuff.
Hmm.
Yeah, because like life is really a game, right? I mean, like, and what's the point of playing a game is to have fun.
It's real. It's very real, but uh, it is for fun. Hopefully, if you're living a nice, happy life, with a light ego that doesn't see so much strife kind of just feels the waves, rides the waves, has a nice time.
Are we ready to go to the next slide?
Yeah,
That
it
was
is very
heavy.
interesting that this on this page, like 292, that like even when we don't forget consciousness, become unconscious, the intelligence still remain. That is really, the intelligence remain. That's what they say. It's intelligence remain, but consciousness become unconscious of itself. So it lose itself in form. It lose itself in form, which is mean that it become identified with the form. It doesn't mean that we lose consciousness. It lose itself because it's become identified with the form.
Secondary. It becomes
Sorry,
secondary.
yeah, it's become yes.
Exactly. So how long have you done that?
Probably another half an hour.
Oh, can you make
They're really sappy slide. This is a good one.
Why should consciousness continue to create and experience form?
Yeah. Why?
Make it past 30 minutes now. The stretching isn't helping at all.
Speaking of creating and experiencing form, Jack, do you want to say hi?
Hi.
This
Hi.
is
Hi, Jack.
a creation that I've helped. Come here.
No, don't put my hand on the phone.
Okay.
Don't put it in there.
Okay.
Because I want to.
Okay. Can I help you with anything?
No.
Interesting.
Quack, quack.
So the answer to this is for enjoyment of it. How does consciousness do that? Through awakened humans who have learned the meaning of awakened doing. But there's just hide for a moment. So
I'm back. We had to have a conversation. Okay. Why should consciousness continue to create and experience form?
for the enjoyment of it.
Yeah.
Lots of reasons
What? For enjoyment of it?
to live. So many. And even if it is just to share your story, so many reasons to live.
So then after when we awaken women have learned meaning, because after that we can become like, we see the meaning of everything, like we find that our inner
People of
purpose
story
with
matter. You're important. You're a part of the whole. Your story matters.
uh-huh.
You are a human. You have thoughts, and you get to experience what it is to be human. It's a wonderful time. So consciousness should definitely continue to create and experience form, because form is like art. Check out this form I made. But forms, I don't like filling out forms though. So that's one drawback. There's definitely pros and cons. Filling out forms, line after line of information from like a healthcare provider or such things. Oh, forms. Oh, forms.
It's not what you do, but how you do.
Yes.
How you do what you do. It's not what you do, but how you do what you do.
Jonathan, your
About
essence
form.
knew before you reincarnated that you were going to have to do those physician forms. And your spirit said,
form.
heck yes, sign me up.
I love filling out forms.
Then
Oh,
you
man.
reincarnated.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
And that's why,
That's
because
why
we
you're doing what you
experience it
do. That's
the
how you do what you
experience.
do. For the okay.
Well, not to get into the deep topic of intentions. Do you think that consciousness intended a billion people all experiencing themselves in each other and working together, or was it just some magical lucky strike that we were born and we continue to be? Wow, consciousness.
You kind of like breaking in the beginning of your questions. Meredith, do you hear the from beginning? What is the voice is kind of like
Yes. So it sounded like Jonathan was saying, did consciousness choose to have everyone on Earth kind of like coming to this level of awareness and consciousness at the same time, or did we just kind of magically get here? Which is interesting because, you know, there is free will involved, even though I think that there's like a divinity path as well. But I don't know. I guess I choose to think that like the source of consciousness knew what was going to happen, that eventually we would get to the point where we would kind of level up as a human species. At least that's what I'm hoping is happening right now. While everything hits the fan, it kind of feels like we're all leveling up. More people are becoming aware. What are your thoughts? Since you posed the question, do you think that it was a magical
No
thing
magic
or
involved.
planned?
It was all a matter of probabilities. It was a trillion to one, but it did happen somewhere in the universe.
We could get real weird and start talking about parallel universes, but there's not enough time right now. Okay, do we want to go to the next slide? Thoughts on emotional vibrations.
Yeah.
I thought this portion was really cool to go back to when I'm bringing my awareness back to the present moment. Is like, am I accepting this moment? Am I enjoying this moment? Am I enthusiastic about this moment? I've been trying to prompt that thought process as I go through the day, and it's been fun because I can redirect when I need to.
Yeah, sometimes I can even accept that I'm being a butthead, to be honest. Yeah.
And then what are you saying in your thought process at that time?
I don't like this. I'm not happy about this. This is making my image look bad, and people will judge this, and I will be the center of bad attention.
But
no.
are you accepting it in that moment, like even though it's like going on?
Enthusiasm, you know, that's what happened to plenty of saints, sages, rishis, swamis, and they enthusiastically accepted the full attention that they received, and I'm sure they enjoyed themselves and accepted that people were taking care of them because because of what is said back here, just the part about brain damage, and that was really part of my awakening, was a nice conk to the head, and then I knew everything was not going to be so terrible, but not so great, and I accept that. And I even enjoy myself sometimes, and I'm enthusiastic about having a wonderful time.
Alyssa, did you have any thoughts on
I think,
that
yeah,
concept?
I think Toli really summarized this really well. You know, I really love this all stages of just to make peace. You know, if you acceptance is just you accept what is as that present moment, doesn't mean that you agree with it. And then enjoyment, which is another level of you know, if you enjoying what you are doing at that moment. And then the the last one, if you have the goal and enjoyment together, then you can become, you know, enthusiasm about what you're doing. So I mean, I love this concept. I mean, I can see how I can, you know, apply that to be make it, it's more like a, how I see, you know, like my growth itself, about how I see things, and put things into perspective. Even if things that I don't like, I just accept as is. I didn't mean to be too
It's
serious.
interesting, again, like thinking about the law of attraction in relation to the way that it's being described right here, is that whatever we're doing, the amount of consciousness is the primary factor. So like how connected we are to consciousness. The external is really
The situation.
not as important. Like it's important in the human brain until we're disciplined enough to take that step back and be like, this situation isn't really real. Like it is real, but it's not, it doesn't need to dictate how we feel. Like we're in total control of that if we're aware enough in that situation. And continually kind of like what we're feeling is what we're going to be getting back.
I agree.
That's the end of what I had to say about that, about emotional vibrations.
Emotional vibration. Hi, everyone.
Any other emotional vibrations discussions?
That's an emotion, isn't it? Inquisitive. Pondering.
Inquisitive.
You know, like considering, thinking about, musing about. I mean, you could put a fourth one here, and it could just be because forms aren't made to be filled; they're meant to be honest.
With like 15 question marks behind it.
So are you saying that your is above, beyond number 3?
No, not even better. It's inquisitive nature, you know. Inquisitive nature, I think, is an awakened form of doing.
Okay, now I'm doing
You know, figuring out the world around us is certainly an awakened form of doing. That's probably the first awakened form of doing. Our mind identifies with a form of self that we consider our relation to ourselves and others, that ego. that we touched on earlier this
Mhm.
lesson.
So you're going to
Mhm.
revise Eckhart Tolle these 3 modalities then by make it 4 modalities. Is that what you're doing?
Okay, Mom,
And
it's been
being
30
inquisitive,
minutes.
yes, it's certainly an inquisitive, awakened thing to be doing. Inquisitiveness. I totally would throw that on the list.
Okay.
Quick question. Should the go before acceptance or after acceptance?
Well, you probably could put it before acceptance if you wanted to
I
make
would,
a flow chart out of it.
yeah, I think so. I would agree with
Okay.
before
Or is it a
unless
step
Oh, yeah.
Jonathan
each step?
definition. Huh. Yes. Oh, both of you are stuck now. Okay, you're back.
Yeah. Yeah, we're just
Yeah, you do really have to get curious to start a spiritual awakening because, like, at a certain point, like, the acceptance is like stuff is happening and I want to kind of get out or change the situation. Like, acceptance is like, this stuff is happening. How can I cope with it? Right? Isn't that what acceptance would be?
So, yeah.
Or allowing?
Allowing is acceptance,
Yeah.
maybe it'd be third and enthusiasm would be fourth.
but if everything else is not yet awakened, that's how I define it. It's, like, if it's if it's not in that, I would think that by Jonathan is like not awakened doing. unless, unless I was wrong about what does it really mean because it's no definition.
I just pictured, like, you know how you can like handwrite things on the screen, like to just put at the top. Like, I do like the step, but
Maybe you can write to Tolle and propose that idea. So, I'm just kidding. Should are we
okay. I think we're done with emotional vibration.
Has everybody had their emotional vibration for the day?
I just keep hearing that song "Good Vibrations" in my head, like whenever we're talking about vibrations.
That's good.
Anyway, no one else does songs in their heads. Just me. Okay, cool. Awakening is the realization of presence. Nothing is going to make us free. Nothing is going to make us free because only the present moment can make us free. That realization is the awakening. Awakening as a future event has no meaning because awakening is the realization of presence. So the new heaven, the new awakened consciousness is not a future state to be achieved. A new heaven and a new earth are arising within you at this moment. And if they are not arising at this moment, they are no more than a thought in your head and therefore not arising at all. That was big. A new species is arising on this planet. It is arising now, and you are it. And I like that even if it is just a thought, if it's not arising, it's a thought, and that plants a seed for when it is right for the individual to have that awakening. Like, everyone is different, and I know I personally read this book a long time ago, and it might have caused some things to set in motion my awakening, but it definitely didn't wake me up at that point. I had to go through a lot more things to get to this point where, yes, I'm part of the new earth, and that is cool that we're all doing our thing. And some people are waking up now, other people have already woken up. Some people might not wake up in this lifetime, and that's all okay because it's all how consciousness wanted it to be.
This is a fun app.
Okay. d- Thoughts on this passage? I chose this passage because I thought it summed up everything really eloquently
Yes, it is.
to say we're all on our own path, and it's cool if you're
Right.
there or wherever you're at.
It's this I just, like, it's just so huge. I mean, it's like, and as always, I always try to evaluate myself or judge myself, which is, I don't think I should be doing any of that. It's like, I think just I don't know, like, be in the present is better rather than let my thoughts control me. I mean, I don't know. Yeah.
Like in those moments when you're being judgmental, it might be helpful to try and remember like the steps, like what was the last one?
Enthusiasm.
Yes, enthusiasm. Yeah. Or like knowing that when you're having a judgmental thought, it's not in alignment with like your true form, because your true form knows that you're awesome exactly how you are, and there's no judgment to be made, because everything, if life is an experience, there's really no judgment there.
Yep. Yes. Yeah, I sleep all the time. I mean, like, sometimes you just sleep. Most of the time.
Wait, actually sleep?
No.
Or are you saying awakening?
No, like sleep from the veil. That's what I mean.
The unconsciousness?
The conscious. Well, the consciousness. Well, can I sleep from consciousness? Maybe I can. Yeah, I think so. Or we should become unconscious. I think when you try to judge your own self, that's the unconsciousness. And then that's what I mean by I sleep. It's like I become you become conscious. Yes. Yeah. That's the last slide, Meredith. I don't have anything to add for this slide. I think
so that's
this is
the end.
Yeah. You sum up everything very well.
So for next week, we're going to do a wrap-up meeting of the entire book, things that we maybe didn't cover or wanted to go back and revisit, because along the path we gained Jonathan, and that's been amazing and awesome. And
yes,
like,
strengthen your ego, Jonathan.
Yeah.
whoop, whoop.
Don't
But
get rid of it.
this is a
It's
fact.
easy
It is a fact. Okay.
So yeah, we're gonna discuss some things that we didn't discuss, and where else was I going with that? If you want to stay clued in on our book club, please send an email to mindfulmeeting@mail.com, and I will get back to you with more information. Next week, we will be announcing our next book club selection. That will stay a surprise until next week. And if you haven't already liked and subscribed to the channel, that would be appreciated. We
subscribe button.
This has been fun. Yes, thank you, Alyssa. Subscribe. So, maybe just an exercise for fun is remembering that life is an experience and have fun. So,
Yes.
bye.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye, Meredith. Bye, Jonathan.
Yes, good
Thank
job.
you.
Good job.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Eckhart.
Thank you.